Two men lit the same century. Only one wired the future. In the late 1800s, electricity wasn't a guarantee. It was a gamble. Cities glowed in pockets, factories coughed steam, and the map of progress was more rumor than plan. Then a new current arrived, and with it, a new kind of argument. Not about whether we'd have power, but which kind would decide how we live. Tech debates get decided by hype all the time, but distance doesn't care about headlines. Early direct current worked fine on a few blocks, then bled away on long lines. Keep the voltage low for safety, and you pay with thick copper and brutal losses. The math was ugly and undefeated until alternating current walked in with a transformer under its arm. Transformers didn't make speeches, they made options. Step the voltage up to cruise over miles, then step it down right before a light bulb or a motor. Suddenly, the grid could be modular, not just municipal. And in this new landscape, Nikola Tesla's polyphase dream wasn't poetry, it was torque you could buy by the crate. Instead of coaxing motion out of sparks and brushes, the induction motor spun because fields rotated, not because parts wore out. Multiple phases made a magnetic merry-go-round. The rotor simply chased it. Fewer parts, lower maintenance, real power in a shop that didn't want to babysit engines. It was elegance disguised as a workhorse. George Westinghouse wasn't a poet either. He was a bet. He saw a system where others saw parts, wrote the checks no one else would, and packaged generation, transmission, and machines into one story a city council could actually sign. AC stopped being a science project and became a procurement line item. Still, you don't win the public with line items. You win with fear or theater. DC's camp leaned into the first, waving headlines about danger and unpredictability. And sure, high voltage can be lethal, but so can steam lines and gas lamps when you pretend they're harmless. Meanwhile, the AC side kept stacking demos and numbers and asking the only question that matters: what keeps the lights on for less? Expositions turned theory into appetite. Halls lit bright and even. Miles of cable running cooler than rumor. Transformers doing quiet miracles on poles and in vaults. People don't memorize equations, but they remember light that doesn't flicker. They remember a bill that doesn't explode. Then came the waterfall. Niagara was more than scenery. It was policy in the shape of water. Generators at the brink, high-voltage AC pushing out like a river of electrons, Buffalo lit from a distance that would have bankrupted DC. Industry didn't argue. It relocated. Progress costs money, and sometimes it costs a man's fortune. When Westinghouse's balance sheets threatened to suffocate his own bet, Tesla did something that legends either romanticize or ignore. He tore up his royalty deal to keep the project alive. He saved the system and burned his personal endgame. That's not myth. That's a signature. Tesla kept hinting at something bigger than a motor: resonance. He sketched the world like a giant resonant cavity and chased wireless dreams with coils that could wake the air. The demos dazzled in the near field, bulbs glowing in his hands, sparks proving a point. But scale is a colder planet, and the far field demanded more than wonder. DC looked safer at first because low voltage feels polite. But politeness loses on the highway. You can't feed a city on short cables and gentle numbers. Real safety is design. Move danger far away at high voltage, then domesticate it with transformers and standards before it enters your wall. It's not theater, it's architecture. If there's a hero people forget, it's the transformer. Laminated iron, copper windings, no moving parts, near-perfect efficiency when built right. It let engineers draw maps of power the way civil planners draw roads. Scalable, redundant, predictable. It's not glamorous, it is civilization. Factories flipped when the math did. Belts and pulleys retired. Soot gave ground to sockets. Induction motors took the abuse that used to shut plants down, and downtime, the real tax, shrunk. Later, variable frequency drives would give speed control, but even before that, the simple version paid its rent. While engineers talked load flow, the streets ran on pamphlets. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt are cheap to print. Incidents were amplified, context was stripped, and a public learning how to think about electricity got an education in tabloid physics. It slowed things, but it didn't stop the ledger. City councils don't buy dreams, they buy totals. Over 10 years, AC's thinner lines, lower losses, and modular expansion beat DC's upfront simplicity. The bids reflected it. The meters agreed. Budgets exhaled. And the skyline inched toward a future that glowed. Every grid fails sometimes. The question isn't whether it will, it's how. AC systems could isolate faults with breakers, reroute with spare capacity, and keep neighborhoods up while a block slept in the dark. Resilience isn't an accident. It's a topology drawn by pessimists. Courtrooms wrote footnotes while headlines wrote myths. Patents overlapped. Credits smeared. Later decisions restored pieces of Tesla's priority, especially in radio, but the public had already picked their heroes. Branding won the sprint. The law tried to catch up in a marathon no one televised. The fairground glow was never the goal. The factory floor was. Cost per kilowatt hour fell as AC spread, and what used to be a brag became baseline. When electricity is boring, you're living in the victory lap. The human cost hid in the fine print. Tesla's royalty waiver kept the system alive but robbed him of the fortune a less idealistic man might have counted twice. He wasn't a wizard cheated by villains. He was a builder who made a costly, conscious trade for momentum. Utilities grew up. Standards nailed frequency and voltage to the floor. Interconnections knit cities into regions and regions into stability. Rates paid not just for electrons but for the labor and maintenance that keep a miracle from becoming a memory. Here's a twist. DC returned, but not to your street lamp. With high-voltage DC and modern power electronics, long links underseas and across continents got even thriftier. The old rivalry became a toolbox. AC built the table. DC now carves the big roasts. Capital doesn't care about romance. Investors wanted clear returns. Meters, contracts, not moonshots. That's why Niagara soared and Wardenclyffe stalled. One had a business model. The other had a prophecy and a budget that blinked. Safety matured from slogans into layers. Step-downs, breakers, fuses, grounding, codes, training. None of it flashy, all of it cumulative. The danger curve bent down as the playbook thickened. Fear was replaced by procedure. Media loved personalities. Measurements loved silence. Engineers filed the quiet reports that actually moved money. Losses, load, reliability. Committees read them, grudgingly at first, then gratefully. The grid is a triumph of boredom over bravado. If you want to hear Tesla every day, listen to your fridge, your elevator, your HVAC. Induction motor singing the same physics he set to work a century ago. It's ordinary on purpose. That's the win. Patent thickets make bad stories. People prefer a single face to a messy network of filings and dates. Later corrections to the record didn't rewire the public's memory. That's not a conspiracy. It's human nature. The real twist is that this wasn't genius versus genius. It was spreadsheets versus physics, with accountants joining hands with engineers. AC won because it could be bought in pieces, scaled in districts, and repaired in a hurry. Tesla wasn't a sorcerer. He was a systems thinker with flair, fluent in resonance and theater, willing to trade personal fortune for institutional survival, and sometimes terrible at reading markets. That's not an insult. That's a biography. Rivals sharpen revolutions. DC's resistance forced AC to grow safer, clearer, more accountable. Standards were born under pressure. The public learned to demand numbers, not mascots. Steel sharpened steel. The grid sharpened both. Winning a century can still cost a life. AC conquered reach, cost, and modularity. Tesla lost wealth but locked the blueprint in place. The world got light. He got legend and late-night loneliness. That trade haunts the footnotes and powers your ceiling. Niagara was certainty. Wardenclyffe was a question mark. One changed the map. The other changed the myths. Both remind us that science survives on budgets, not just brilliance, and that timing can be cruel. Every light switch in your home is a tiny vote in an old election, cast without ceremony. Flip it, and a transformer hums. A line miles away agrees, and a motor somewhere thanks a man who chased a rotating field. The story ended up inside your walls, where victories go when they've won. If you want the quiet lesson, it's this: technology wins when it scales cheaply, safely, and predictably. Stories can stall adoption, but they cannot power a city. Motors, transformers, and a few gutsy signatures did. That's the grid's real plot twist. Common sense dressed as genius. He said resonance and saw a world of standing waves. We kept the parts that paid the bills and kept chasing the rest when we could afford to. In that sense, we're still editing his dream, one standard at a time. None of this cancels Edison. Healthy skepticism forced the AC camp to prove itself over and over. Safety improved because scrutiny did. And when both sides matured, the beneficiary wasn't a man. It was everyone who sleeps under steady light. The grid hides in plain sight because it's supposed to. If it's interesting, you're having a bad day. Its beauty is that you forget it exists until you need it, and then you get it immediately, without negotiation. We remember the fireworks and forget the filings, but the filings win the century. Boring reports, silent transformers, rotating fields. These are the bricks of modern life. The spectacle is a trailer. The movie is maintenance. Maybe that's why this story still hooks us. It's a rare fight where the best math actually won. Not fast, not clean, but decisively enough that 100 years later, the debate is a museum piece and the lights are ordinary. If you're looking for magic, look again. The magic is that ordinary won. Electricity turned from a party trick into an expectation, from a lecture into a switch. That's the kind of miracle you only notice when it's gone. Every city wired itself to a bet that became a rule. Transformers at the edge of neighborhoods, breakers that trip faster than fear, motors that run longer than rumors, a choreography too dependable to trend. Here's the last truth. You don't need to pick a side anymore. The toolbox is bigger. AC carries the load, DC stitches continents. Standards keep the peace. Engineers keep the promise. And somewhere in the hum of a substation, a quiet thank you to a man who heard a field spin. See our other videos for Tesla's resonance notes, Wardenclyffe's mystery, and the legal plot twists behind radio. Subscribe to this channel, like if you enjoy this, dislike if you don't, and comment below if you know Tesla.